been able to complete in that 10-week period. And at that, Sydney Shorter, the president and CEO of the Black Chamber of Commerce. We have Angel Shelburne, who is the chief growth officer at Combia, and we have James Jackson, who is part of the advisory board and excuse me, I'm saying this very poorly, is a member of the advisory board of the Black Chamber of Commerce and part of J3 Motivation. Thank you, panelists, for being here today. To kick things off, we're going to go to someone who has often been referred to as android as opposed to human, but I promise you he's very real and not a hologram. Please welcome to the stage Richard Grover. I started teaching at Neumont all the way back in at least full-time September of 2012, and I taught here for 9 years, and then I decided to go back to industry for a time to pick up some fresh skills that I could bring back and eventually teach. And so in March of 21 I left, and then I came back October of 24, and that's when I met Richard Grover. And I did not understand the hype at the time, but I do now, and soon so will you. Mr. Grover, are you ready to present?
Sure.
Excellent, the time is yours.
All right, so before I begin, I want to tell you all about a dream I once had. As a kid, these were 3 of my favorite places. Disney is incredibly immersive, arcades are interactive and local, and trampoline parks give a ton of fun while providing lots of physical exercise. Now that we're older, we pass the time in more futuristic ways with our phones. And that's not a good thing. But wouldn't it be cool if we could combine these? Something immersive, interactive, local, and something that gives you exercise. This is what I pursued for my capstone. My name's Richard, and this is the story of Simulo. Now, the reason this doesn't already exist is because these 3 have some problems. They're super expensive, they don't scale, and they require such specialized equipment you can't change the experience once it's built. So I set out to build a product that solves these problems, and then to make $1,000 in revenue by deploying it out into the real world. So, what did I make? So this uses something called interactive projection mapping. Now, what does that mean? It means you can interact with certain objects, move them around, and manipulate your environment. This works by using that camera to see where my wrist is, but it can see a lot more than just my wrist. This arm, my head and my torso, and we can do a lot of really cool things with this. We can create explosions. I was way too early on that. No, there we go. So I can paint with fiery particles on this canvas, or maybe we want to go the other way and be underwater. No matter where I go, Simulo can track me and spawn the bubbles, or maybe we want to play a little game. I have this target, and when I put my hand on it, it's over there now. Go 1, 2, 3, or maybe we're in an escape room, where as we walk along the walls, ancient writing is revealed. Point is, with just a camera and projector, we can create a lot of experiences that are immersive and physical, easily. So, how does all of this work? The camera and the projector are yours. You don't have to buy them from me. They're nothing special. All the magic lies within the software in the computer. Everything for Simulo is low level. I use languages like Zig and C++ to make a custom Vulkan renderer, and I'm also using NVIDIA TensorRT for inference. And all this means is everything is really fast. In fact, that camera can track my movement with just photos over 100 times per second. It feels like magic. So that's pretty cool, but what about that goal to deploy it? I'm going to show you the first of 3 places where Simulo was deployed. It's not far away. I took Simulo, and instead of going on a wall, I projected onto the ground. This is done with the camera and projector just really high up. And I'll show you my favorite game made with this. It's called Do Not Step on This Button. If you step on the button, it'll flash like crazy and then give you a lovely confetti surprise. Pretty basic, but I wanted to see if people would react, and they certainly did. These two found the button, they stepped on it, and of course, they got the lovely confetti surprise. I'll show you my favorite group. It's this next clip right here. They were like hiding in the corner. They were so scared about what was going to happen. So once again, pretty basic, but it proved that it worked and it got attention. So I used this to go to another place and create what might be my most proud accomplishment ever. On a massive ultra short throw projector with Simulo's camera across the hall, I created this experience for the one and only Loveland Living Planet Aquarium, the largest aquarium in Utah. This is also where the demo came from. So with just your hands, no special equipment, you can hold it up to the display and summon columns of bubbles to levitate some trash out of the tank. When all the trash is gone, it turns into this colorful display with fish and coral, and the kids absolutely loved it. And I loved that the kids loved it. To see them jumping up and down and waving their hands was a very nice moment. So that is example number 2. Lastly, we have a place called the Edison House. For their week-long Day of the Dead celebration, I created this projection-mapped shrine. This one was the first that was 3D, so it's got those distinct 3 levels to it. And Simulo knows about the size and shape of each of them, so we can create a lot of really cool effects. Like you'll see this green in a second that can slowly wipe across each face. Right there it goes. And this video was taken in the daytime, but at night, the whole thing was moved into a dining hall. And as you can see from this video, it is way more vibrant. And it just cycles between several different animations. We got the flowers blooming, which can then turn into butterflies. And since it's a projection, the butterflies can even go off the display and onto the wall. So that is exhibit number 3. Once again, this was done by just measuring the whole shrine. I transferred that info into Simulo's designer and made the assets and the animations. When it was time to go, we loaded it on the projector and everything was going. So now is the ultimate question. Did I accomplish my goal? Did I make that $1,000? In the end, I made $803. I did not accomplish my goal, except I kind of did. There's actually a 4th place by the name of Dreamwalk Park. It's located in Orem, Utah. It's a very cool half-mile long, super immersive exhibit. And I was in a talk with the CEO to try to sell my projection mapping. They loved everything about it, but they weren't willing to buy in the time I needed. And this was tough because I was under $200 away. They didn't offer me that buy-in, but they did offer me that would be great for next quarter, but I'm still in enterprise, or I'm still in Capstone right now, so I got to try not to think about that and just work on my project. Can you guess what I thought about for the next 3 hours exclusively? It was this. I thought back to those 3 places I loved as a kid and how I always wanted to become an Imagineer. And you can't turn an opportunity down like this. So if you count that, not only did I hit that $1,000 goal, but as this photo of me at Dreamwalk shows, I'm now on that path to the ultimate dream. This has been the story of Simulo. My name is Richard, and thanks for listening.
Absolutely amazing, Mr. Grover. Thank you very kindly. Particularly from the panelists, are there any questions or curiosities that you would like to run by Mr. Grover? Yes, please.
Just wondering what your biggest aha moment or most difficult challenge was in the project. The hardest part, for some background, my goal with this project was not so much on the tech, but on the business side. I've been doing a lot of tech for a long time, but I wanted to know what it takes to really make a product and grow it as a company. So to just wear every hat was really challenging. I'd have to go focus on code and then switch to like a sales call, then think about where we want to take the product, and that was the hardest part. There was a lot of aha moments with the projection, though. I can say when I first got that calibration to work and it would track my hand, that was like, okay, I know this can work. So yeah.
Please, Doctor.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
What are some of the costs required for the customer other than your technology to curate what you're selling?
Yeah, so it's very cheap compared to any other projection solution. I haven't found anything as cheap as this. It's just an average camera, so you can get these at any office supply store. They're usually $20. And then the projector is just as good of a projector as you'd like. This one's decent, so you can get some really cheap ones if you're in a smaller space. That aquarium had a really good one, and most places usually have some supply of projectors. But yeah, the software and the projector and the camera are all very low cost compared to anything else.
Mr. Taves.
Piggybacking off Nate's question, what was the process like in getting started with those business opportunities? I imagine that was kind of a leap.
Yeah, that was really hard because this isn't a product that solves a problem, so I can't say like this is going to make your operation more efficient. A lot of it was just, I realized being a college student is like super overpowered because you can just go to any place and be like, hey, I'm a college student and I'd love 15 minutes of your time to learn more about your business. So I would use that a lot to go into places, get to know them, gauge if this would even be a good fit, and then just kind of at the very end be like, so I am working on this, do you think it would work? And especially for the aquarium, I remember the whole time the guy was like a little cold, but when I told him about this, he kind of like leaned forward and he's like, oh yeah, we could use it at this and this and that. So yeah, that was kind of my secret, just college student.
Ms. Gertler.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Really impressive. My question is, thinking from the business industry,
Mhm.
Is this something that, is it cost effective for someone to put up for a one-time event? Maybe they have a conference, a one-day conference or something. And then how much time does it take to program something specific, because it's going to be niche for everywhere that you go, right?
Right. Yeah. So the last two, the aquarium and the Day of the Dead event, were one-time events. And one thing I really emphasized with this was trying to make it scale more as a product rather than a service for individuals. So the advantage with it all being programmed through code is we can easily swap out assets. So you saw I had like the bubbles and the background, but we could easily switch those to like your own branding, or if there's a special holiday, you can tailor the visuals without having to, go over the entire game and recreate it from scratch.
And then final question, Mr. Nickerson.
Great presentation, Richard.
Thank you.
I'm curious, I know you showed your technology stack just a second there.
Mhm.
Curious, how many of those did you have to really learn on your own? I imagine it wasn't a projection that in class.
Yeah, we don't quite have that yet. This was a continuation of a hobby project before that. I wanted to make my own game engine. So stuff like the Vulkan renderer, I did have to learn from scratch. It was a process that before I started this Capstone was probably at least a month or two. And if I were to do it again this time, I probably wouldn't have done that because it just took so much time to do features that you might consider pretty basic. So it was a really great learning experience to make my own engine, and everything involved. It created some really great performance gains, but the cost of that was not being able to ship features as often. So if I were to do it again, I would probably use like an existing game engine.
Excellent, Mr. Grover. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation and your project. Next, we will see a presentation from Trenton Tater. Mr. Tater. Mr. Tater is going to be demonstrating for us his project Lost Memories. I have not seen this presentation. This is there are a couple of presentations on this list I haven't had a chance to see for myself. This is one of them. But as we were setting up and testing out the projector and making sure that everything would work correctly, I got just a glimpse of what he has here. And even in those 30 seconds of what I saw, I was absolutely stunned at what he had accomplished, again, in such a short period of time. Mr. Tater, the time is yours.
Hello, everybody. So this is my game, Lost Memories. So who am I? My name is Trenton Tater. I am a senior at Neumont University, representing the game degree. I am very passionate about cinematic storytelling and player-driven experiences, such as some sort of unique mechanic that makes a game pop out. Something that isn't a carbon copy of every game that wants to just make money. What is Lost Memories, though? Well, Lost Memories is, well, a third-person experience. It's where you play as Jess as she returns to her hometown of Point Hope. She wants to uncover the history and disappearance of her family, and she does this using her special ability, Remembrance. Remembrance is simply where she can go back to the past through rips in time, also known as memories. These memories can relive certain moments in time, and she'll be able to bring the past back to life. Now, why did I choose Lost Memories? Well, I always love narrative games that have some sort of unique mechanic, such as Life is Strange's Max's power, being able to rewind time, or What Remains of Edith Finch with her reliving the past, and they bring those characters back to life in which you feel like they're still living, and it just brings out that emptiness. I also loved The Vanishing of Ethan Carter and took a lot of inspiration from that in bringing back the past as well, such as remembering how certain events happened. I wanted to captivate that with my game and recreate that same feeling that I enjoyed playing all of these games. Now, let's get to the demonstration. So the game is a little bit darker. I was not prepared for this room to be so bright. Oh, thank you. So here's the main menu. I really enjoy UI design. And as you can see, this takes a lot of inspiration from like the journals of Life is Strange, or like menu selection, things like that. Now let's get into the actual game.
Well, seems I'm back home. The old town of Point Hope. Let's see what Uncle Katie wanted me to see. Or not see. I best get going.
So all audio was made by me, except for like environmental things. So all the music I ended up doing because I also love playing guitar. And so throughout the game, you'll come across these interactions where
The roads were left abandoned years ago. No one's lived here since.
She can talk about them or interact with them. Now, this game really pushes the narrative of you should explore the environment, piece together things, but because given the short demonstration time, I will have to skip a lot of the sections and go straight towards the story. But while doing so, I'll also show you the environment. This environment is made using procedurally generated vegetation, except for all the roads. The roads are masked specifically so like grass doesn't grow there, other things don't appear like trees. The trees and grass are procedurally generated separately because for the trees, I wanted them to all be generated at once because they don't require much on the computer. Grass, though, grass is by far the most computer intensive work. So when rendering grass, you only want to render what is near the player. You never want to render any grass that's like too far out of you. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. You don't really need to render what isn't visible to the player. So I specifically made it that grass doesn't generate further than a certain chunk, and each chunk is very small, which does increase generation time for some things, but it does make the game run a lot smoother without having to sacrifice graphical changes.
Let's awaken the past.
So here we are at her home, at her old house. So her house is decrepit, and she wants to go inside and relive some of her past.
Wow. Seems the door's locked. Figures.
Well, her family used to always keep a key underneath the mat.
Oh, crap. Well, no key. Unless, maybe I could use the memory.
So this is where you're prompted to use a memory, and within using a memory, you open a rip through time and go back to a short moment in time where things were different. So for example, now,
And Jess Mabel finds...
there's a key underneath the mat.
That was funnier in my head.
So now she should be able to actually unlock the door. Now, the technologies I used. For my rendering engine, I chose to use Unreal Engine 5.7 as it has a lot of advantages towards creating a realistic game, such as its procedural generation. And with Unreal Engine, I use their blueprinting system, which is a visual scripting language that uses nodes. And in my honest opinion, this is oftentimes harder than just regular coding because blueprints really bring a new meaning to spaghetti code. I also used Live Link Face for all sorts of facial animations on our Just character. And with that, I also used MetaTailor. MetaTailor is simply an app that allows you to add clothes to metahumans. A metahuman is simply Unreal's realistic human modeling program. So you can add like facial features, you can customize everything. I used Blender for all sorts of model editing. Some of the models were often like very high res, and that's not really needed for things that aren't in the player's view. It also helped me with content creation. And for texture design, I used Krita to add that like weathering feature. Krita was my all-time favorite because it's free, more importantly than anything. And for Jess, as you can hear in my voice, I am definitely not Jess. Jess is an artificial model created by 11 Labs. 11 Labs is the one bit of AI I used during this project. And Another fun fact, the AI model I used, her name is also Jessica. And bringing it all together, I used Audacity for any sort of audio editing, music design, and of course, dialogues, because I wanted to captivate that inner monologue as well as all these other games that I've played. So I used Audacity for recreating that. Now, throughout your process, you're going to come across hurdles. This was one of my hurdles. Metahumans animate the head and body separately. So I had to create some sort of system that way I could merge these two together without her neck breaking. Now, in content creation, your first design may not be the first one that you go with. You may want to keep going, for example, and that's what I did with Jess. I did her more times than I would like to count, but in the end, I created something that I envisioned as my character, as the character of my game. In retrospective, what did I think? Well, I think that I did really good on the seamless integration with metahumans. For example, the character and facial animations now properly work. She can display facial animations, which is very important because in a game like a narrative, you don't want them to be stone-faced. You want them to have some sort of liveliness, even if their facial features aren't moving much. I was also very happy with how my remembrance power came out, because with this, you can't just look up a tutorial on how to do this. You have to create your own system behind it. So that is something I'm very proud of, that I could create this without any sort of help. I am also very proud of the save system. The save system was a bit finicky in the beginning, but with Unreal, it's a lot easier than most other engines, such as Unity. With Unreal, this made it much easier to save the player, if it's their first playthrough, what cutscenes should be playing at what time. But there were also things that didn't go well. For example, I lost any sort of GitHub use at all, because without realizing, I filled up my Git LFS storage very quickly. I've since learned you shouldn't track every Unreal object. You should only track those that are larger. I also had an issue with my repository, changing all of my assets to be read-only, which meant instead of them existing locally, they would only read it from GitHub. That was not very useful for showing off my project or running it locally. But fixing that was very quickly done. I just used git bash to change all the read-only files, read the pointers back in, and pull everything. I was also really upset by this one. My character animations, one day, all decided to just corrupt. I opened my project and there were no animations. That set me back a few hours, but in doing this, creating it a second time will often be better than your first time. In conclusion, don't give up when things get tough. This could be like starting your project, some sort of thing goes wrong, like your corrupted files. Don't give up, because your second iteration can often be better than your first. I also found out that getting started is definitely the hardest part of development. But once you do this, it's going to be full steam ahead. Make it work, and then make it good. What this means is most of the time you want to make something exist first, then allow yourself that room and freedom to make it look good. This will increase your development efficiency and make things so much better. But now, what is the big question? Will I work on Lost Memories? Yes, absolutely. This game has been my passion for the past, I can't even count for now, but I will. And thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Tater. That was excellent. We have just a little bit of time for a couple of questions before we move on to the next presentation.
So, great job, great presentation, impressive work. Have you tested this outside of you, like with people playing a game? I'm assuming you have.
Yes.
Okay. And then, any plans to partner with, I don't know, someone like 3FS to test it out?
I haven't gone that far just yet, but maybe in the future.
Any other questions from the panelists? Yes, please.
Great technology, awesome job, what you've done. As far as like in the marketplace, where would you see, and this is talking about a partnership here, or where would you see application for this? I was at a meeting, speaking of Veterans Affairs, where they use PTSD gaming for veterans to decompress. And I mean, talk about family history, or those of age generation to interact with some bits of their past, to recollect that they face degenerative diseases. What are your thoughts of the marketplace application for this, aside from who you built this for yourself, but what are your thoughts?
I think it would be very good, especially as like seeing it as overcoming a past. That was my idea with this game, was sort of like, because PTSD and traumas, sometimes facing them head on can often help, as I've had to experience myself. But I haven't thought much of it in the actual like sense of helping others. I've been mostly focused on like that storytelling, that like unique approach, things like that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Tater, for your presentation. Next, we will hear from Annika Arel. Now, one thing I failed to mention earlier was that we have 6 presenters here, each one coming from a different degree program at Neumont University. Mr. Grover comes to us from the CS degree. Way to go. Trenton Tater comes to us from the game development degree, the software and game development degree. And Annika Arel comes to us from the information systems or IS degree. Annika created Arel Guard, and Annika, when you are ready, the time is yours.
All right. Hi, my name's Annika Arel, and I created Arel Guard. So first off, let me ask you guys a question. By a raise of hands, how many of you have been hacked on Instagram, Facebook, any type of social media? Okay, quite a few of you. And one more question. How many of you, by a raise of hands, are gamers? Then Arel Guard is perfect for you guys. Let me tell you a little bit why. Arel Guard is an attack and defense simulator. Attack meaning something like what a hacker might see, and defense meaning what a cybersecurity professional might see. So let's get into it. The technologies that I used Python for my coding, for my environment, for my threading. I used tkinter for my GUI. I used JSON for my user storing. I used PyInstaller for my packaging to make it a desktop application. So let's go into the demo. All right, first off, you're gonna see in the top left corner, you have welcome to Arel Guard. That's just a basic sign in. We can continue as guests. And then you go into the home page. So it starts off with attack. You have the Start Guided Attack Lab. This is for those non-technical people and those gamers. You have Free Play for those more advanced users. And Defense has the same things as well with the Defense Labs and Free Play. And that top right, you have Progress. It tells you what user you are and how many points you have. So let's go into guided attack lab. Up in that top left corner, you have your quick definitions. Those are just acronyms to tell you what they are and how they work. And you'll see them come up in the live logs, which is the traffic. In that bottom left corner, you have your objectives. Those are for those gamers. And then as well as the instructions to run the system. On the right-hand side, you have the live log. This is where you'll see your traffic. Above that is the traffic in plain English for those non-technical users. And then in the top right, you have your controls. Use recommended just means that it's going to up the traffic more. Run lesson is going to start the traffic, and stop is going to stop the traffic. So in that bottom left corner, you can see that it says press run lesson, then wait 3 seconds. You have green is your objective, which it just wants you to reach the 600 requests per second. Then you have watch traffic level plus status message. So let's run this. It's not impacting anything, not enough requests, so we press next because we hit that. Then the RPS is saying hi, it's just not hitting anything quite yet, so we're gonna press next. And then it wants a disruption achieved. So like I said, you can use recommended, you can run the lesson. It's ramping up that traffic, and we get an impact achieved. We hit that. Traffic is overwhelmed over here, so we press next. And I know all of you love tests, so we're gonna get to that. So in this right-hand side, you see that traffic. You're wondering, in a DOS attack, where does most traffic come from? So you see that dominance running right here. There's one dominance, that means there's 100% coming from the top sender. So it's one main source. You submit that, you can go next lab. Lab achieved, woo! And in that top left corner, you'll see 10 points. Gamers, you got it. So we'll go, this was the attack, we'll go into the defense. Same thing, you have the quick definitions on the top left, you have the instructions and the objectives in the bottom left. You have your traffic in English. So we can go to that bottom left side, it wants us to watch the dominance. We can also show the details right here. Run the lesson. You can watch it down here as well. This makes it easier if you don't want to watch that. So we hit that, we can press next. It wants you to get a confirmed DOS attack, which we did right here. Click next. And another test. So in this simulator, what does dominance mean? In that top left corner, it gives you dominance, how much of the traffic comes from the top sender. So we're gonna put that as the answer. We're gonna submit that, go next lab. We got another lab achieved, another 10 points, we're so good. So let's go into that free play that I was telling you about for the more advanced users. This is one of my favorite parts. You can choose from a DOS attack, a DDoS attack, or an adaptive attack. I'll tell you a little bit about my adaptive. This is a less known style of attack just because it doesn't have really a term for it. But it's just going to run right here. And then as you can see, it doesn't hit anything, it ramps up, doesn't hit anything, ramps up, hits it, takes it back to normal, hits it a couple more times, goes back to normal, and it'll keep going back and forth because that's what a hacker might want to do. If they don't want to get caught, they don't want to be high in traffic all the time. They're going to want to kind of go like this with your system. And then we also have a help menu. This just kind of is for beginners. It tells you a little bit about definitions. It tells you optional terms you might want to know, how to run the labs. Tells you about the live log traffic, and then we can go into settings as well. You have default. This is for your duration in seconds, so how long you want the system to run for. You have threads, which threads are how I made my traffic in generating it, and then as well as you can change how many points you want for each lab. You can also, for those gamers, I know you might want to restart because it's so cool. We can reset the progress and we're back to 0 points. My retrospective, what went right? My Python environment went really well. I didn't know a lot about Python going into this, so I was really proud of that. The functional GUI, I've never used tkinter before, so learning that was really good and it turned out really well. And then successful simulation. I went into this not knowing how to do any type of simulating. I didn't know how to generate traffic. And I ended up getting a successful simulation in the first 2 weeks. And then the lessons learned. Attack simulation restrictions. As we know, hacking is very illegal. So to get information on how to simulate that was my difficult part. The way that I got around that is I used AI and Python documentation and put them together to create a successful simulation. I also had some packaging issues as well, trying to make this a desktop application. That was because of my GUI integration. I tried to change my GUI because I didn't like tkinter at the start, changed it to Streamlit, and then went back because of the packaging issues. Future plans and learning points. I'd like to add more attack styles, say like phishing. I'd like to add more guides for those added attack styles as well. I want to deploy the app. And then for learning points, what I learned throughout all of this is I learned how to simulate attack and defense. I'd really love to get into the cybersecurity world. So I wanted to be able to simulate that traffic in a controlled environment. GUI setup, I loved that I got to have a GUI because at the start it turned out that I didn't know if I was going to go the GUI route or not, but I'm glad I did. And then I learned how to make a desktop application with PyInstaller. Thank you for your time. I'm Annika Arel, and are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Annika. In an effort to try to make the questions a little bit easier to hear, I'm going to stay here on the floor and share the microphone with our panelists. Panelists, any questions or curiosities for our presenter?
Thanks, sir. One question, with your packages you worked with Python, did you come across any CVEs or vulnerabilities that you had to update the package and maybe that broke the project?
Yes, I did. I was trying to use GitHub, and I accidentally pushed to GitHub after I had made it into a packaging, and I destroyed all of my GitHub and my packaging. And then at the same time, I was also trying to make a picture for the app, and trying to get that into there after I had already pushed that, I ran into lots of issues.
Thank you, Mr. Krebs. I'm curious a little bit about the future of this project, and then, I mean, with that, do you see it breaking into the market in any way, or just talk a little bit about the future?
I would love to deploy the app. I'd also love to have companies use it for their employees to learn about cybersecurity. I think it would be a perfect way for people to understand the vulnerabilities of being online.
Hey, I know you talked about the GUI kind of being a secondary part of this originally. Did you do any user testing or any sort of kind of experience with outside people to see how it landed, how it felt for users?
Yes, I did user feedback with my stepdad, who has no idea how to use technology. He's a contractor, so he has no idea what he's doing. He told me, I don't know what any of this means, and I don't like that I can't see it in English. Like, what does that even mean on the logs? And I was like, you're right, I should probably change it to English, make it a little more accessible for people like him.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Harrell. We will now be pleased to hear from Christian Fuller, who comes to us from the SE, the Software Engineering degree at Neumont. Interestingly, the SE, I was there when the SE degree was first created. I believe that one was spearheaded by Ryan Cox. Yep, absolutely. And currently the chair of the SE degree is Professor Cantera, and he I say this all the time, and I don't know if he would agree with me or not, but I always say like the CS degree, it's if you put it in military terms, it's kind of like the Army. We're like the general infantry. We're generalists. We cover a lot of ground, lots of breadth. Whereas the SE students are kind of like the Navy SEALs or the Marines, right? Like they are absolutely deeply entrenched in the engineering aspect of software. I'm excited to see what you present today. Please take it away, Christian Fuller.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Fuller. I'm representing software engineering, and I have created an application called ASL Learning. What is ASL, and why did I choose it? ASL stands for American Sign Language, and it is a way of natural communication, mostly between the United States and parts of Canada for deaf communities. There are a lot of perks of knowing ASL, but some of them that I really think are really good is that you can communicate with deaf communities. You basically learn another language, which is really cool. And it also allows for more job opportunities for you. What does my project do? My ASL learning project is about learning the American Sign Language alphabet. It records you and shows you a real-time hand tracker and sees if you're making a corresponding sign. For example, if it wants you to make A, it sees if you're making A. By doing this, I was able to make you learn the whole alphabet. I will show you a demo now. Is this on? Okay. So all you have to do is download it. It is in Google Drive. So you have to download it, extract it, and then all you do is go into the project and then run the exe. And it takes a minute to load. This is my home screen. It just says, welcome to ASL Alphabet Learning. I like the background of it. It just basically, it's like learning with infinite possibilities, because if you learn the whole alphabet, you can kind of do anything with that. So you can just do basic login information. You can create an account and you can log in. There is a profile and you can either start learning. If we go to the profile, it just shows basic stuff like this is for like badges and if you complete any letters. Right now we have none. But if we go to start learning, we have different options. You have to use your right hand because I did not implement my left hand yet, but it is your right hand. You can learn the whole alphabet. You can learn the whole alphabet, but it's random. You can learn specific letters, or you can test your knowledge. I'm going to learn specific letters because it's easier for the demo. You just choose what letters you want to do. I'm just going to do a bunch of them. And then when you choose your letters, you're going to press start. And you got to make sure you have a camera on your laptop and it's going to record you. And what you want to do is you want to make the sign corresponding to what it's showing you. So you're going to pull up your right hand and it's going to track your hand. It puts 21 points on your hand. It puts 4 on each finger. And then it puts 1 in the middle right here. And what you do is very specific on where your thumbs and your fingers are at. So it really teaches you sign language. So you got to close your hand and put your thumb up. And it sees that you're making the sign. And then for each letter you did, it's just going to keep on going through and making sure you're doing the sign. This is like really cool. I really enjoyed doing this part because you get to see your hand and you just get to see the whole part of like it working. That's like the best part of it. And then for J and Z, J are movements, so it goes IJ. For J, you just kind of turn your hand down, but for this, I was not able to get moving into my application. So all you do instead of moving it down is you just move it to the right. And then after you learn the letters you want to learn, I got a badge. It says you've earned a badge learning letters. If I go back and I go to my profile, I see I made a badge. If I hover over it for a second, it tells me I got this badge by completing at least 1 letter. There are a total of 7 badges, and the last badge is a master badge, like just getting all the badges. For the letters, you test your knowledge as it's a whole test. I'm not going to go through it right now for the sake of time, but it just goes through the whole test, and you get 10 seconds. I can show it off. You get 10 seconds per sign. And if you make a sign, it will stop the sign. So U is like this, and you see the time left stopped. If I mess it up again, the time left continues. And then it just goes through the whole alphabet and to test what you know. And then whatever letters you get correct, it will add it to your completed letters, and whatever letters you get wrong will not get added. As I did not complete the test, I gave up. I did not get any letters. I can show you what it looks like when you do get letters, as you can log out. I can log into an account that has everything and show my profile. This is all the letters you get, and then this is all the badges you get. And that is it for the demo. For my tech stack, for my front end, I use a library called PyQt5. For my back end, it's Python, and then for my hand tracking, it's MediaPipe. These all go together as Python is the base language, and then you implement MediaPipe and PyQt5 into Python. For my cloud and database, I use Supabase as it's free and it's really easy to use. For my deployment, I also use PyInstaller, and I use Google Drive. I use PyInstaller to make my application into a .exe file so you can run it, and then I uploaded it to Google Drive for family and friends and anyone I want to give it to. For my organization, I use GitHub and Trello, as that is really easy to organize your project and make sure it's like you know what you need to do next. For my challenges and fun parts. The challenges is I had to code every letter manually in the alphabet. It was a really hard challenge, but it was probably the most fun I had. I was learning a new GUI at the time. I did not know PyQt5. I did not know anything about it. The only thing I knew was Python. For my project structure and my organization, it was really difficult at first, trying to like understand it, but after a little bit of time, it got really easy, and I was able to restructure my project. For the fun parts, I enjoyed coding the letters. It was a blast. It was probably the most fun part because you get to see what you did in real life. Stylizing the GUI was really fun. I really enjoyed making something look nice. Implementing the notification system, it was really cool, like seeing the notifications pop up after you complete something. And probably the best part of it is showing my friends and family my project. What would I have done differently? If I had the opportunity to do this again, I would probably make my code more dry. As my code, I was learning a lot of new stuff, so a lot of my code was pretty jumbled up. So I would definitely make my code more dry. I would implement my moving signs like J and Z. As right now, they're only they're stationary, so I would implement the moving signs. And then I would make the designs of the pages better because I think having buttons in the middle of the page is not the best idea. My conclusion, I am really satisfied with my project and I enjoy what I did. I met all my Capstone requirements. I would only change a couple of things, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with how I did everything, and I hope this application will be able to change some people's lives in some shape or form. And that is my application, ASL Learning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fuller. Any questions from the panelists?
So with the movements, how would you implement that, and what challenge do you foresee with implementing that feature?
Implementing that feature, it would be definitely like seeing where my hand's at current time. So taking like screenshots of my hand. So if my J is like moving like this, I would track my hand to see where it's currently at each moment, and then like see if it's at the right spot. Like make it like a pre-spot for it and make sure it's like doing the right spot. And the challenges I expect is that will not be easy. It'll be really difficult, but I really, really want to implement that feature like going on later on. And I think it'll be a really good what's the word for it? It will be a really good improvement to my application.
Great name, Christian. Also, just wanted to comment though. I know you were talking a little bit about showing friends and family, and it's hosting Google Drive, so you can pass it out as you will. I'm curious, did you do any testing on other systems to see if it plays nice with the other cameras or anything like that?
Yes, I do have my cousin, which is my test subject. I send him all my projects and make sure it works. I sent him my project. He has a camera on his computer as he does not have a laptop, and that did work. My brother has a computer, which that worked as well. I did give it to my parents, which are not like very tech familiar, and they were able to log in and do everything like how they were. I just had to tell them how to turn the camera on. But yes, I have, and it did go pretty well.
Yes, please, Mr. Shelburne.
Thank you. I may have missed your inspiration. I have 3 subsequent questions real quick. Your inspiration for this project. Also, what would it take to expand to conversational ASL? And third, like a Duolingo partner, what application would you see this? Sorensen Communications is a Utah-based, they deliver this through the government. So those are 3 questions. Your inspiration, expanding to conversational ASL, and partnership application to deploy this.
Yeah, my inspiration for this was about a year ago. I saw something similar on a social media, TikTok. I saw something with someone tracking their hand. And I thought it was really cool, and I really thought that would be like something really helpful. And right when I saw that, the first thing that popped in my mind was American Sign Language. So coming up to Capstone, I was really concerned on making a project that would like set out for the requirements. And thinking about it, I was like, I can just make people learn the American Sign Language alphabet. And it's really something that like helps people, and it's really needed in like this day in life. So that was my inspiration for it, was really to like help people that need it. And I wanted something that like helps the community out. For conservative ASL, I believe it was. That's like the words, right? Like conservative, like
Conversational.
Conversational, yeah, conversational. I really want to implement that, but for right now, I think I should focus on getting the alphabet like completely worked. And then for the conversational, it's more like words. I feel like I would make it so it's basic greetings at first, and then later on get into more complicated conversational ASL. And then for partnerships, I think I really need to cut down on my security more before I do my partnerships, but I am really, really open to partnerships as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you.
If you would please join me in welcoming up to the stage now Mr. Jeremy Dangerfield from the Technology Management Program. I said earlier that not all of these projects are projects that I have personally seen. In this case, I had the opportunity to be of at least a little bit of assistance to Mr. Dangerfield as he was getting his repo set up and getting his project underway. I was able to witness and observe, at least from a distance, Mr. Dangerfield's passionate commitment to this project. The technology management degree is one that is a little bit challenging when it comes to Capstone sometimes, because the technology management degree focuses quite a bit on product and project management. It's more of the business side, the interactions with the customers and the clientele. And it can be harder to illustrate in a tech-focused environment all of the effort, the hours, the planning, the strategies that go into this. But Mr. Dangerfield has encapsulated that wonderfully in this project. Mr. Dangerfield, when you are ready, the time is yours.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy Dangerfield. I am part of the technology management degree, and this is my capstone, MazeGate. So what is MazeGate? It's a company I wanted to build for a long time. It's a home security business that lets you control everything from your phone. You can arm, disarm your system. You can get instant alerts, manage your devices, all from your phone. And this is, my capstone is a mobile application I developed that is a proof of concept, as well as to strengthen my business case for MazeGate. So what is the problem MazeGate is solving? Raise a hands, who wants to sign a 3-year contract, be paying $500 or more a year for a system you can barely customize? That's exactly what ADT, Vivint, and other traditional home security companies do. So MazeGate solves all 3 of those problems as well, but what
makes it different from competitors like Ring and Simply Safe? Three main things. One, we have premium branding. I wrapped MazeGate in a Greek mythology kind of theme to make it stand out in a sea of generic competitors. We also have a hybrid modelization. So we would offer both pro installations like ADT, but we'd also have DIY options like Ring does, so the best of both worlds. Then we have it's a customer driven. So I built this Capstone not on assumptions, but off of real customer interviews I've had. So speaking of those interviews, what was the main thing I learned? The most common phrase I heard was, I just want to know if something is wrong. I don't want complexity, I just want to know if there's a problem. So, and a lot of people, over 50% I interviewed, considered switching. So there is a dissatisfaction in the market. And the market for the global home security business is it is projected to be $1.6 billion by 2030. It is growing at an annual rate of 8.6. And my target market would be frequent travelers, smart home owners, as well as high income early adopters that value mobile control. So I analyzed 6 major competitors. So ADT and Vivint lock you into 36, 60 month-long contracts. Simply Safe is affordable, but it's limited in its features. Ring has a lot of privacy concerns, and Google Nest and Brinks is falling behind, and Google Nest is not security oriented. MazeGate's edge in this would be the no contracts, professional grade features, and that premium branding that makes it stand out. So MazeGate makes money 4 different ways. Number 1 is hardware. We'd sell a system at an average of $400. That is competitive with both Ring and Simply Safe, but professional, better quality, I'm sorry. Second would be subscriptions. There would be multiple subscription tiers. The first one is free. You do not need a subscription. You do not need to also pay a subscription to use the stuff. Third and optional is professional monitoring at $18 a month. That is cheaper than Ring at $20, but way cheaper than Simply Safe at $32. And lastly is enterprise contracts. So we'd be selling to property managers, landlords, people that manage multiple business properties, as well as API integration. And my key metrics do show that this is sustainable. My customer acquisition cost is about $250 to $300. My lifetime value is about $750 to $900. So that shows a healthy ratio of 3 to 1, meaning each customer is worth 3 times more than what I spent to acquire them. My 3-year financial plan. So for year 1, we want to acquire that 100 customers. We want to gain about $75K in revenue, and we'll break even at around month 6. At year 2, we want to acquire the 500 customers, about $300K in revenue, and $15K in profit. And then year 3 would be 1,000 customers, over the $300K in revenue, and $60K in profit. The startup capital needed for this is estimated roughly around $26,000 to $47,000. My company roadmap has 3 phases. Phase 1 is launching the app as well as the website to sell the hardware. We have, then we want to acquire those 100 customers and then increase that brand awareness. Phase 2 would be scale. We want to gain partnerships with like Best Buy, Amazon. We want to then raise Series A funding and hopefully consider an IPO for national expansion. Then lastly is dominate. We want to add AI threat detection, a developer API platform, as well as those enterprise contracts, and expand to the UK and Canada. For the Capstone, for the application itself, I used 4 main technologies. I had Git Bash for my version control. Android Studio was my environment, with Flutter being the framework I used. And Trello was my project management. So let's get into a demo. Unfortunately, I do have the app working on my phone. Unfortunately, I was not able to get it to cast, but it does work. Not sure how well that showed. So I do have a video here. When you open it up, you have a simple login. You can log in or sign up. This is just going to log in. And then we have our dashboard. So you can arm or disarm your system. And then you can also see at a glance of any possible things that can go wrong. You can also check your devices. Here is a bunch of devices that MazeGate would have. You can then add a device. We're going to add an Atlas, which is a front door, which is a window or door sensor. And so we're just going to add that. You can also add any third party. So let's say you got a Ring door sensor. We're going to add that to the back door. You can also check any device, check your device's health, your battery, things like that. You can also trigger any alerts to make sure your devices are working. And lastly, if you go over here, you have an event log. So in case you have multiple people in your household, and you could see here where multiple people have turned off the alarm or turned it on. That is the demo. So what went right with my Capstone? My market research definitely validated a lot of my strategies. The Greek mythology with a lot of my user testing, the Greek mythology brand kind of did get enjoyed. The app was fully functional from the start. I really appreciated that. And my financial projections show that MazeGate is definitely on a path to profitability. Oh, I went backwards. So what went wrong? I barely used GitHub at the start, which was not a good thing, because when my main PC died around week 6, I lost a lot of my projects. I had to restart it, and luckily I was able to get most of it done. And lastly was, because I'm solo on this project, I wasn't great at tracking my Trello. That is something I am working on and will continue to get better at. So what's the next steps for MazeGate? I want to build the back end of the app as well as create the website. I want to partner with hardware manufacturers and hopefully launch MazeGate as a real company, because this isn't just my Capstone. This is something I do want to make a real company in the future. Thank you so much for listening. Any questions?
Excellent presentation, Jeremy. I love it. You had some really great market research in there, and I'm just curious, how did you conduct that market research?
A lot of Googling. A lot of Googling, seeing a lot of the companies. I looked at their previous reports, like a lot of their yearly reports they would do. That's pretty much it with the marketing.
I want to check. I know early on those first 100 can be some of the hardest to get. What's your strategy for kind of breaking in and maybe getting that initial capital as well?
Just making MazeGate stand out. The more it stands out, the more it would be appealing to your everyday person.
And going beyond that, what happens if you end up with more than 1,000 when you're just trying to get 100? Are you ready to handle that kind of volume?
That is a great question. That is not something I actually thought about. That is something I definitely will look more into. That is a great question.
Thank you. Great presentation. To remain competitive or to really get into a very saturated market, your cost of goods is really important. How do you see really negotiating or identifying products that will help you really compete in this market?
I'm not sure I understand.
Your cost of one of your follow-up points was identifying manufacturers.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because you have products beyond your technology that you need that are going to really determine your pricing model and structure, because that has to be factored in. So where do you see that you'll be able to really negotiate to be able to have the right pricing, to be able to be competitive? Can I tell you what I'm asking?
Yes.
It's really going to be based on volume. So when you talk about how many customers that you are looking to start with, that's really going to determine what your price for your cost of goods is going to be, because it's really based on volume. So just, you don't have to answer the question, but just something to think about.
That is something I'm definitely going to look more into and research more.
Thank you, Doctor. And thank you, Mr. Dangerfield. Now, we have been blessed with a wealth of intelligence and technology, and we have just one more for you before we get to the judging phase of this particular event. Coming up to the stage now is Benjamin Leonard from the Web Development degree. Web design. Excuse me, web design. Benjamin Leonard is one of my favorite people on the planet. Not only is he an absolutely incredible web developer already prior to his graduation, but he's also a consummate tabletop RPG nerd. And that really just warms the cockles of this old man's heart. Ben, when you are ready, the time is yours.
Hello, everybody. As I was already introduced, my name is Benjamin Leonard, and my project is, actually, I do need the microphone. That'd be a smart idea. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Almost. Hello, everybody.
Hello? There we go. Cool. Anyways, ignore that. That didn't happen. Hello, everybody. My name is Benjamin Nathan Leonard, and my project is Cinercillo and Busy Bob, which is just the fun little name I gave my AI backend stuff. So, why did I decide to do this project? I wanted to make a project that felt actually relevant to the industry at hand, and with the kind of takeover of AI of everything, I was thinking of good applications it could have in a modern everyday business. Communication is often one of the #1 most reported issues going on with people in every company ever. People don't communicate to the managers don't communicate to the people, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of problems with communication between employees and management. Employees don't feel heard. Management feels like employees are not providing valuable feedback at all. So the idea with this project was to create a functional calendar application tied in with an AI. So the calendar application is focused more on business. It has a 5-day work week, which can't be changed. And it's focused primarily on just having a calendar that's more oriented towards the corporate workforce, and it has an AI assistant that will read a ton of survey responses that people will submit. It'll start automatically Friday at 5, and it'll end Sunday at midnight. The AI will aggregate replies, remove basically a lot of the bias that could be there from employees speaking out, and also remove any of the personal connotation that a manager could use, hopefully not nefariously, to get back at an employee, and then submit it all in a PDF that gets automatically emailed to the managers of the company so they can look over the feedback every week. My tech stack I used MongoDB as my one database with Mongoose for a lot of the data checking and handling because MongoDB is not very good at actually validating what you're putting in it. I used Vue and Nuxt for the front end because Nuxt is great. It's pretty fun to use and it comes with a lot of features that I liked. And for the BusyBob API, I used Fast API, PyTorch, Hugging Face, LangChain, a lot of just different things. Most of these were just to help with running the AI stuff as smoothly as possible. It made it so I didn't have to deal with every setting under the sun. I just had to deal with the ones that I needed to modify myself. And then the cron app, which is basically what has this timer that's constantly running in the background to check for the correct time to set everything at, is done with Node and Express. It's a very simple, small little thing. So we're going to get into the demo here. All right. So I have myself already signed in here. Everything has been integrated with Google, by the way. So your sign-in's automatically integrated. I have a Google Calendar pulled up here. And if I go over to view my calendar, you'll see I have the exact same calendar here as is shown here. And if I go to make a brand new event, let's see. So if I go like stuff, very exciting event. The description's optional, so I'm just going to skip that right now. Nobody cares about that, right? Yeah, probably not. I heard a single chuckle over there. And then we'll do 04, 03, 20, 26. I promise this is the slowest part. Everything after this is going to be super fast. You're going to be really excited. It's not. The AI takes us a few seconds to process, but don't worry, we'll get to that part. 2026 at 07 p.m. Cool. I throw an event in here, and then you'll see it'll take a little bit back. You'll see I have this event here, stuff. If I go over to Google, you should see it's in here now. Stuff that wasn't there before. I promise there's no smoke or mirrors here. That just didn't exist prior. And let's remove that event, and look, it's gone. And I can show you again with Google. You got to refresh. Nope, there we go. It actually did it that time. You saw it disappear real time. So because everything's hooked up to cron, we obviously aren't going to sit here and wait until 5 p.m. for the surveys to trigger, because I'm not going to do that to you. So I have these little development API points I can use to kind of force the start of every thing and then force the end of everything. So this forced it to basically pretend we just hit Friday at 5, which means if I refresh the page, I have a survey ready. I use Survey.js to help with a lot of the survey setup. I already have some survey results on the back end. I'm just going to click through this. That's gibberish. It'll sort it out. And then we go through here. Boom. Boom. Yeah, sorry, just to speed through the demo, I don't really want to make you guys sit through me taking an entire survey, unless that's like your idea of fun. And then after we take that survey, I'm going to do this force end here. And it'll take it a bit of time to do that. So I'm going to swap back to the presentation to discuss some things, but I have 2 emails open here that are existing accounts. This one is the benleonard.net one, which you can see up here is my email. And then there's a work one as well. So we'll get back to the presentation. And then after I finish explaining this AI stuff, we're going to go see if we get the email, because it does take Google time to handle some of these emails. Boom, boom. Okay. So my tech stack is, or not my tech stack. This is the little breakdown graph of the AI stuff for people who aren't super well versed in how that's working. And also I have some algorithms in there. So I just want to have a little graph rather than showing you walls of code, because everybody loves looking at code. So you take the starting data. I have 3 different AI models. One is a connotation detector. It detects positive connotation and negative connotation to comments. And that's important because people are more general to give a lot more negative feedback than positive feedback. So that's important for some weighting stuff on the back end, that if someone gives something positive, you need to weight that a little bit higher, because that means it was really stellar for them to give that positive feedback. We have a gibberish sorter. I type in random letters, it detects it's random letters, it cuts it out of any of the feedback. So the AI doesn't consider it as real feedback. And tag detectors, just basically, I have a list of like 20 different tags that'll rate likelihood on each thing that was said by a user. And the main reason I have that tag detector is it's much easier for the AI to process numbers than just a wall of text. Gets stored, and then Sunday at midnight, it takes every company's data, it'll eat it all together, it'll throw it to a ton of aggregation algorithms, so I get a small object, because if you have a massive object, the costs and processing time would be insane. And then it feeds it all into the AI prompt and API stuff I have handled, which I have like a transformer built into it that's AI terms. And then I have it generate a PDF and send it through email. So before I get to the rest of that, let's go back and look at our emails. So you'll see here the inbox will load. Let's go ahead and refresh here. It'll take it some time. Let's check this one here. Okay, this one got one here. This is for Work Co. It'll send a little email in here and it'll generate a PDF. This one, I submitted a lot of bad data to, and you can see it's got those issues. The analysis style, when you define your company, you get to make that. And that's how the AI will phrase things. So if you want to make it a little fun, a little silly, most people wouldn't do that, but you can define words you want it to avoid. You can define like specific phrasing. Like I said, this one needs to be serious, to the point, and strict. So that also has kind of contributed a little bit to the rating factor. And it talks about the company health level. It's using a lot of corporate jargon here. You can see it's comparing stats and stuff. Again, I ran this a lot with the same stats, so it's comparing the same numbers, saying everything's been identical the past few weeks. Why haven't you fixed it yet? So all this stuff was generated with Python, these PDFs, and they get sent through your email automatically. I'm using real mail handling. This is a real Gmail. And again, with that comes some issues. That's why I'm going to show here. Ideally, I would have an email popping up over here. I have some that I've done earlier before, but again, because I'm running it through Google, it entirely depends on how long Google takes to actually send that email out to me. This one was fun because I told it to be whimsical and metaphorical, and you can see it kind of, it called the company a delicate flower. So that doesn't really have a good real world application, but if you want to be called if you want the feedback to be a gentle breeze that whispers truths, you could get it to talk about that. And the faint mist that hangs over the company, just being like the sorrows of the employees, I guess. Anyways, that's showing how that mail stuff is handled. And then if we go back here, start from current. Cool. Promise don't want to lose you guys yet. There's a little bit left. Roadblocks. So Google. Google was really bad to work with. They had a mess of developer consoles. It was really hard to get through everything. Once you get everything set up, is easy. Getting it set up is the hard part. So getting all of my Google authentication configured and working with everything was a problem. Docker and Mongo, I had issues with connections. That was literally just me at the end of the day having a link hidden, storage issues, and AI model weight, because this is a dual booted system, which means I'm running into a lot of issues storage wise. The positives, I learned a lot of stuff. I had a multi-app application experience, so everything's tied together with Compose, and I'd never really done something like that before. And it was challenging because of all the new things I threw at myself with the AI and the email stuff and all that. All right, in conclusion, I would love to work on this project more in the future. I think it could be fun to develop it into an extension that you can add to an existing calendar application rather than someone having to migrate everybody to the new calendar, because that would be a headache. But overall, I had a fun time. And any questions?
Questions from our panelists? You did a great job presenting. They have no questions whatsoever. You answered everything. Oh, wait, I was wrong.
Do you have any target customers, so to speak, in mind that you would love to see using this as part of their system in their business?
So ideally, I would start with not comically small companies, but like 15 to 20 size companies, just to see what it would do with smaller data sets and how I can handle that. But I want it to have a very general application towards any corporate work culture as a whole. Because a lot of times companies will have like feedback surveys they send out. Even at Neumont, you have the feedback on your professor survey every quarter and stuff. And then there's always going to be fear to reply to that because of anonymity concerns, right? Like, is it really anonymous? If I mention this specific thing, they'll know it was me. But the idea is that it would be applicable to almost any good corporate setting where you would need that kind of feedback to help everybody work better together, because of the anonymity factor and that there's not really the human aspect to it, no biases or anything.
Yeah, you mentioned the AI that you've integrated into your software here. A leading adjunct professor for competing universities here in the state explains to their students that they need to see themselves as managers not just of people, but as a baseline of agents, AI agents. Can you speak to the AI agents that you created for this demo and where you're at?
So for me, I didn't create the agents. I was using existing agents from Hugging Face Hub, but they were very helpful in the sense that having to write a ton of algorithms, like I already had one algorithm in there and that took a lot of time to write. It would have taken so many more algorithms. It would have taken a lot of people to review those results, especially for talking with current survey handling. If you're going to have someone who has to shuffle through hundreds of survey results just to get all the feedback in one place for the person who's going to read it, that was done in like a minute. It just processed all of that, sent out a response, and again, aggregated it all together. And I can see the effectiveness in the future of the idea of like being managers of the AI and stuff like that, because obviously it needs guardrails, stuff like that. Sometimes it'll go a little off the rails, as you saw with the whimsical thing. But yeah, I would say I do agree with your point that the future is looking a lot more like management in a sense of the use of AI. So.
Excellent. Any further questions from the panel? Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard. Now, while that does conclude our presentations, that does not end the show. You see, we do have these 7 wonderfully distinguished panelists here, not only to ask really thought-provoking questions, but because they are going to perform a service for us today. We have the alumni panel, we have the industry partner panel, and each of these sub-panels are going to discuss amongst themselves, going to cast their votes, and will award to one project of their choosing, the award from their panel, after which we will celebrate, clap everybody on the back, and have a wonderful day. So let's give the panel just a couple minutes to deliberate, and then we will come back and give the awards. Thank you so very kindly for your patience and your time. If you would please take your seats, and if I could please ask the presenters for CPI today to please return to the stage. Everybody, welcome back to the stage our 6 presenters. All 6 of you, in all honesty, for those who know me personally, I don't like fluff. I don't like, hyperbole. I don't like nonsense. If I tell you something, it's because I genuinely mean it and because you genuinely have earned it and deserve it. And all 6 of you did an absolutely stellar job on your capstones with your presentations today. One more time, a round of applause. At this time, I would like to ask a member of our alumni panel to please come forward and to present their award to their chosen project. Mr. Nathan Nickerson.
Thank you. So with this award from the alumni, we chose to go with Christian in his ASL demo. Take that. We chose Christian because his tracking of the hand, and I assume there's amazing algorithms behind it, is just really impressive technically. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Excellent, and congratulations. You can go ahead and be seated if you wish. And now I'd like to ask up to the stage a representative from our industry partner panel, Dr. Sydney Shorter. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Well, congratulations to each of you all. You all presented very phenomenal, marketable opportunities for us to engage. But we chose Richard Grover with Simulo. Yes. Is there a photo op? Oh, there it is. Photo op. But thank you all so much.
Thank you, Doctor. A hearty congratulations to our 2 award recipients and a pat on the back to all 6 presenters. And thank you for spending your time with us this morning here at Capstone Project Invitational 2026. You all have a wonderful, great day. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. See you back on campus.